Hi there, it's Carol with Carol B Crafts. Today we'll be doing project number 3 in my Rooted in Nature online class. The Rooted in Nature online class kit will be available through July 31st, 2018. You can get the details on how you can get the class kit materials absolutely free with a qualifying purchase on my website www.carolbcrafts.com. If you don't have the class kit, don't worry. I'll be giving the dimensions instructions as we go along so that you can make this card with us. Some of the items that you will need in addition to your class kit, you'll definitely need the Rooted in Nature bundle, which I have the clear mount, and here are the dies that go with it, Nature's Roots Framelits dies. And you can see that we're going to be doing quite a bit of die cutting today. We'll be using leaves and little sprigs, and those you will cut and stamp yourself, and then I provide the circle and the little scallop circle die for you to stamp. The ink that you'll need, if you decide to do the coordinating colors, is Calypso Coral, Tranquil Tide, Soft Suede, and Grapefruit Grove. Now you will need a stamp positioner, either your Stamp-O-Majig or your Stamparatus, to stamp the pre-cut circle die that I include in your kit. So let's get the kit and get started. Okay, here's our kit, and everything will be pre-cut and pre-scored for you except for the things that you'll be stamping and cutting with the Nature's Roots Framelits. Now we have two Whisper White circles, the second largest circle in the Stitched Shapes Framelits dies, and then we have the third largest scalloped circle in the Layering Circles Framelits dies, and that's in Crumb Cake. For our inside sentiment, we have two pieces of Whisper White, but you only need one, 3 1/4 by 4. If you remember, they're portrait and not horizontal. 3 1/2 by 4 1/4 piece of Calypso Coral. Now these are for your cutting of your leaves for the front. So you can use scrap, but I have a piece of Soft Suede, 2 by 5 1/2. A piece of Calypso Coral, 2 by 5 1/2. Okay, the Soft Suede is 2 1/2 by 5 1/2. The Calypso Coral is 2 by 5 1/2. The Mint Macaron is 2 by 5 1/2, and the Grapefruit Grove is 2 by 4. And we'll be stamping those later on in the video. The DSP is from the Nature's Poem DSP, and it is 4 by 5 1/4 on top of a piece of Calypso Coral cardstock, which is 4 1/8 by 5 3/8, and that's going to go on a thick Whisper White card base. We'll go ahead and fold that, increase our fold. Okay, and then we can set everything aside. Oh, inside your envelope is 3 of the basic pearls, Pearl Basic Jewels, 1 medium, I believe that's a medium, and 2 small. It might be 1 large and 2 small. I'm not sure. But you can tell. Whatever looks good for you. And then we have a piece of the 1/8 inch gross grain ribbon. That's Grapefruit Grove, and it's 9 inches. So let's clear away everything and get ready to do our stamping. We need these, and we need this for our inside sentiment. Okay, so we will need some of our cardstock too. We'll need our 4 pieces of long cardstock, but we'll go ahead and do our sentiments first. Now I'm using my Stamparatus, and it's going to make it easy for me to line up my sentiment on my pre-cut circles here. So I have a piece of 4 by 6 window sheet, and we sell that in the catalog. I'm going to put this in the corner. I've bent one corner up to make it easy for me to lift up the plastic. Now the first thing I'm going to stamp is the thinking of you on the circle. So let me get that. The thinking of you. I'm also going to use the You Are Wonderful for the inside, but if you have something else like happy birthday, congratulations, feel better, you can use that as well. So I'm going to go ahead and get out my 2 stamps, Thinking of You and You Are Wonderful, to do the sentiments. So the Thinking of You is the first one that I'm going to do, and I'm going to put it down near the edge in the center there of the plastic, but not over the plastic. Pick it up with my swing plate. Now I'm going to put this onto a piece of scratch paper, just a little bit of adhesive to hold it in place. And I'll use that in just a second. So now I'm going to ink up my stamp and make my impression, sort of like I do when I'm doing the Stamp-O-Majig. This is like taking the place of the plastic that we used when we used to use the Stamp-O-Majig. So I have my Grapefruit Grove. I have to get used to the new way these new pads open. I'm going to ink up my stamp and make my image. It's kind of like my guide image for where I'm going to put my circle. I'm going to slip this underneath, and I'm going to be able to pretty much put that where I want it. That looks good there. So I'm going to take these other 2 magnets, put that in place, remove the plastic, but I'm going to be careful not to disturb the paper underneath with the Thinking of You on. And I'm going to put these in place. Now I'm ready to stamp my image. So I'm going to ink up my stamp with my Grapefruit Grove, and I'm going to go ahead and press it down there on top of the stamp. You want to press on top of the stamp and not on the sides. Okay, I can see definitely need a little more pressure there on this side, and some more ink too. Okay, a little more ink there. I think it's kind of close to the hinge, and that's making it a little harder to get that ink on there. A little bit more. I'm just inking up the G. Alright, that looks good. Thinking of You. And I've noticed this ink is kind of like magic. First it looks a little blotchy, but then it evens out as it dries. So if it looks a little blotchy at first, don't worry. As long as you got enough coverage on there, it'll even out eventually. So now we're going to clean off our plastic, and we're going to put it back in the corner here where we had it before, and change our stamp. I forgot to put my case down there underneath to give me some support. Now the next, I'm going to use You Are Wonderful next. Make sure I get it going the right direction. Putting it near the edge, but not over. If you were going to use a different sentiment, like Happy Birthday or Get Well, you could use that instead. So this is going to be for the inside sentiment, and remember it's going to be portrait. So The length is going to be going this way. I'll ink up my stamp. You can ink up your stamp, whatever stamp you're using. Same process. So now I'm going to put this underneath and line up where it's "You Are Wonderful." Put my magnets in place. Then I'm going to gently pick this plastic piece up without moving the paper underneath. Ink up my stamp again. Looks like this one is in the way, so I'm going to move it aside a little bit so that I can get all of that L in there. I'm going to just ink that up again lightly just to have a nice coverage. That's what's great about the Stamparatus. It makes it so easy to get a good image. So that's our inside sentiment. Now for the next part, you don't have to use your Stamp-A-Majig or your Stamparatus, but I'm going to, just because I find it so much easier to do. And we're going to be using this leaf here stamp, so I'll get that. And we're going to be using this stamp and that stamp and this stamp. So the two leaves and the little sprig of leaves. So first we'll stamp the 3 leaves on to a piece of our piece of soft suede, and I figure we can stamp 2. You could probably stamp more than 2, but we'll start with 2 because you only need the one. The second one is just kind of extra. And we'll need our soft suede ink. We'll go ahead and ink up our image. Make sure we get it all along the edges and the inside, the veins on the inside. Now that looks pretty good, but I'm just going to give it one more just because I can. Really enjoy the fact that I can do that. Now I'm going to do another one just because if I start cutting and I mess up, I've already got another one stamped and ready to go. Because sometimes when I do my die cutting, I do kind of mess up, get it off just a little off. So I'll go ahead and do the second one just for good measure. Okay, now we'll do our next leaf. Our next leaf is going to be this little sprig of leaves here. Let's go ahead and put our mint macaron in place. I'm putting my cardstock this way so I have plenty of room to slide it forward if necessary when I go to make my second image. So now I need my Tranquil Tide. But if you have the mint macaron ink, you could use that too. Definitely going to have to ink that up again. Love my Stamparatus for that reason. And maybe one more time. Let it soak in really good. Okay, now I'm going to move that down and do another image. Make sure I have plenty of room there. Yes. I really think cardstock is a little more porous than the Whisper White cardstock, the colored cardstock is, and I think that's why it requires so much of us to stamp, like 3 times. So it just kind of sucks that ink in. Next we'll do our Calypso Coral, and that's the big leaf. This leaf right here. I think that's such a pretty leaf. It looks like it has something on it. I need to brush it off. There. So we're going to stamp that. We're going to use Calypso Coral ink. And then we're going to move it up so that we can stamp another image. Okay, and then we'll do our last smaller leaf in the Grapefruit Grove. So I have my Grapefruit Grove cardstock. And I'm going to do 2 of those. Should be able to fit 2 on there. Grapefruit Grove ink. I could probably get by with that. This is a newer ink pad, so it has a little more ink in it than my older pads do. Okay, I think we're done with our stamping. Next we're going to prepare for our die cutting. So we're going to need the framelit for the soft suede and the Calypso Coral, the Grapefruit Grove, and the mint macaron. Now if you have washi tape, you can use washi tape. I'm going to be using my Scotch Magic tape. That's my tape of choice. And that's the frosted kind of tape. It's not the clear tape. It's the Scotch Magic tape. And I'm going to line this up, and then I'm going to put a piece of tape on along the edge of the die. Put one there, and I'll put one down here to hold this, put that in place where I want it to cut, and then I'm going to put my plastic, put that tape there to hold it in place. So that's ready to go through the big shot. So we really only need 1 of these, so I'm going to start off by die cutting 1. And if there's any hangover, I just push it down so that it doesn't stick to my big shot plate. Do our Calypso Coral. It's really important not to have the tape go on the inside and touch your image. And then lastly we have our little sprigs. This one might be a little bit more difficult to do, to line up. Okay, let's get our big shot. Okay, so the sandwich we're going to use the big platform and the thin die adapter. Whenever you're cutting, you need to use both of those. I use my plate that is my cutting plate. It's a clear acrylic plate. And we might be able to cut more than 1 at a time. Maybe you can cut 2 at a time. It's real easy when you have them taped. You don't have to worry about placement. You can just put them on there and run them through. And be sure to remove your dies from your paper before you throw it away. So we have these two. Now we'll do the other two. Our 3 leaves. So you'll have extra if you need. You could always maybe make another card with what you have extra. I'm just going to cut the one because that's all I need for the card I'm making today. So we'll bring everything in that we need to put our card together. Now these leaves, if you want to give them a little bit of dimension, you can do that. I'm going to do that. I'm going to use my piercing mat, but you could use a mouse pad. And where you see this line, I'm going to take the rounded part of my bone folder, and I'm just going to push along that line into the pad, and that gives it a little bit of a texture like a leaf. And I'm going to do the same with these, gently pushing in the center along that vein, that center vein, and that gives it a little dimension so it doesn't look so flat. See how that makes it stand out? And then we have one more leaf here. Just gently going back and forth along that line till it looks good, like a leaf. And then this one we'll just leave alone because it's small. Now, let's just start with easy stuff. So this is easy, so let's go ahead and put this on here. Okay, that was easy, and I think we can go ahead and put this on there, so we'll do that. Had a little bit of struggle with that one. Okay, we can go ahead and put this on our card base since there's no ribbon to worry about. And I'm using my waxy strip that's left over from our mini glue dots. In case you're wondering what that is, it helps me to, if I make a boo-boo, it helps me to move my cardstock around. And we can put that on the inside. I think that's a nice message. Thinking of you, you are wonderful. Okay, speaking of thinking of you, let's go ahead and do that. I'll just gently remove this from the back, the paper. If the paper rips, that's fine, just don't rip your cardstock. That's going to go on our crumb cake circle. Scallop circle. Let me line that up. I think I need to move that around. That's better. Okay, thinking of you. I think we put that on with mini dimensionals. And that's going to go about right here. Make sure it's opening in the right way. So it looks like it is about 1/4 of an inch from the edge here, the white edge, and the bottom of this is about 1 1/4 inches from the bottom of the cardstock of the white. So 1 1/4 inches from the bottom and 1/4 inch from the side. That kind of tells you where it's going to go. We're not actually going to put it in place yet. We're just going to kind of use it as a guide. So we want to go ahead and put it in place where it belongs. But we're going to use that as a guide because we're going to hold it in place and stick our leaves underneath like this, so that we can kind of get an idea where we want it to go. Alright, so make sure I still have this, move that up a little bit. So when we get ready to put on our leaves, we're going to get our glue dots, and we're going to put those on with glue dots. So I think we'll go ahead and do this one first, the Calypso Coral. Keep everything in place that you can, and we're just going to put one at the bottom and one in the very center underneath that vein. We're not going to put one up at the top. Hold your circle in place and slide that underneath till it looks kind of like that. And try to keep your circle in the spot you want it. Now we're going to take this leaf. Now you could either put it below that leaf or above that leaf, whichever you think you like better. Again, one at the bottom, one in the center but not at the top. Hold our circle in place. We might actually have to lift it up a little to get that in. There we go. Oops. I'm going to put my circle back in place. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's about where I want it. Now I'm going to do these leaves. I just put one here and one kind of towards the center. One on that little leaf in the center and one on the second leaf in the near the stem. And that's going to go right there. Now our green one, we're going to put a glue dot behind there. And then one kind of right here. Doesn't matter if this one is a little flat. And it's going to go right there. Alright, so now we can put our Thinking of You on with our mini dimensionals. Alright, I'm not sure how many we need. I'm just going to put some all the way around it. Okay, so you can see that I put them all around and then I put 3 in the center. So I'm going to do my Thinking of You 1/4 inch from there, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1 1/4 inch from the bottom. And then I want it to be there. Alright, so now we're ready to do our bow. We got our 9-inch piece of gross grain. We're going to do our loop and loop like we always do. Cross this loop over that one. Maybe. Alright, and then once we've made our X like that, keeping it flat, we're going to push this one through the little hole there at the bottom. Grab it with our other hand and pull it gently, and then just straighten it out till we like the size and the shape. And that looks about the same. It's a little bit smaller, but I can make it bigger. You can make it bigger or smaller depending on which way you pull it. But it's about, from tail to tail, I mean from loop to loop, it's about 1 3/4 inch from here to there. So that gives you an idea about how big my bow is. I'm going to put a glue dot on the back. Decide which side you like best. It kind of has a side that's flatter than the other. So I'm going to put a couple of glue dots just because I have plenty. Now I'm going to put that down here, kind of in this empty space here, on top of that leaf, just sort of like that. Doesn't have to be any particular place. And I'm going to trim it with my scissors, my snips, at an angle. Alright, the only thing we have left to do now is the pearls, the 3 pearls. We have 1 larger pearl and 2 small pearls. And I do think that is the large pearl, one of the largest and two of the smallest basic pearls. So it's good to start, and it's nice if you have your piercing tool. So it's good to start with the big one, and we're just going to kind of put it where we think it's going to look good, somewhere around that bow, and one right next to it, and the other one on the other side. All right, we are done with card number 3 in the Rooted in Nature online card class. Stay tuned for card number 4. Check out my website, www.carolbcrafts.com, if you haven't already, to get your card kit. Thanks for watching. Bye now.